That Dean would, like, dare?
That's a good reason to be shocked that Dean would break the rule, though. Because
Dean is not a rule breaker. That's true.
Yeah, from what we've seen so far, it's not really something Dean does.
Yeah, that's fair.
And like, if this was something that John said, which that line definitely sounds like something he could have said.
Yeah,
exactly. Like, he doesn't disobey their dad ever.
But I think that this definitely was not rule number one, because rule number one, I mean, hands down, is watch over Sammy. Rule number two is probably something more like always make sure that you get the damn thing, probably with an at all costs tacked on the end. And then maybe shut up about it all is rule number 3. It's definitely not rule number 1.
Okay, they probably weren't numbering them.
I mean,
it's like in Zombieland where they have all the rules.
I love that movie.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like it's not really important enough to nitpick. Like the rule number 1 part.
I just thought it was funny that Sam said rule number 1, because I'm like, there's no way that would ever be rule number 1.
No way. They also don't ever seem to, like, when people do find out the truth, they don't try to, like, convince them it's nothing. So yeah. I don't know why people knowing is such a huge thing.
Yeah, I agree. It gets them out of trouble to tell someone more than it gets them in trouble to tell someone. But anyway, we finally get a timeline on how long Sam and Jess were together, because I always just estimate 2 years, and that wasn't that far off. It was 1.5 years.
Damn.
So I was close. It was close. And Sam's super upset that he lied to Jess for so long. However, you might recall in the pilot, Dean actively was encouraging Sam that he should be honest with Jess or break up with her. But Sam was appalled that Dean went out with Cassie, quote, a couple times, because what else is Sam supposed to think based on how Dean has described this, and then told her everything. Dean is not talking about that. He is done with the talking.
Although, from what we'll find out later, the whole break up with her or tell her everything kind of works for this situation with Cassie.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny that Sam was very upset that Dean told someone, whereas in the pilot, Dean was like, well, does Jess know? And Sam was like, no. And he's like, well, how's that gonna work?
I've also always wondered with Sam not telling Jess, like, it never seemed like he was not telling Jess because his family would be upset, because he's already kind of told his family to screw off anyway.
Yeah.
Like, it's always seemed more like he wanted to preserve this, like, normal life, and he couldn't tell Jess and have that.
Yeah, I think he just didn't want her to know what he was doing.
It is pretty scary, though.
Yeah, and also, like, felt like if she knew, it would be more dangerous than if she didn't know.
Yeah, like, not every normal-ish girl wants to find out that your boyfriend routinely murdered people growing up.
Yeah, 100%. And then, remember when we talked about Wendigo in episode 2, I said that we're going to come back to Dean's comment that this was the most honest he's ever been with a woman? We're here. We are back. This is us coming back. Because Cassie knows about literally everything. When Dean tells Haley and her brother about the Wendigo and about Supernatural and what they do, I don't even think it was that. I think it was when he was talking about their dad in that episode. He was like, this is the most honest I've ever been with a woman. No, it wasn't. This with Cassie trumps that a little, I think.
Oh, so much. Well, and he clearly, like, he says it was like a relationship that was like a couple of weeks, and like, she knows him incredibly well.
Yeah.
He either like literally spilled so much in that space of like 2 weeks, or he's downplaying how long it actually was.
Yeah.
It makes that line in Wendigo so funny, though, because when he's saying this is the most honest he's been with a woman, he's actually lying.
That is true.
What a champ.
That's when we meet Cassie. We meet Cassie before the boys get here, but Cassie and Jimmy work at the newspaper, and the Mayor Todd, is trying to get them to bury this story about this guy who got killed on the highway. And we find out that it was Cassie's dad. We kind of knew it was Cassie's dad, but we find out that he was the second victim to die on the highway in the last 3 weeks, and both of them were black men.
But also, holy crap, you're gonna go up to someone and tell her to bury the story of her dad's death?
Yeah. Talk to Jimmy. To say that to Cassie's face is a bold move.
Like, if I was Cassie in that moment, I would have, like, slapped him and been like, it's gonna be front page news because that's my dad.
Yeah!
I mean, Mayor Todd feels, we're gonna get to it later, but Mayor Todd feels pretty confident that he's not racist, and I feel like maybe he was feeling that a little too confidently in this moment.
Yeah.
It was a lot, but Sam and Dean arrive, and Dean is keeping things very cool and casual as he introduces Sam and Cassie, and Sam is delighted about how uncomfortable Dean is, I think, a little. little bit, but also just to meet her.
I just love how they've kind of switched roles right now, because usually Dean's the one teasing Sam about girls they meet.
That's true. But Cassie brings them to her home and tells them that her dad was scared by a large black truck that would appear and disappear, and that the other man that was killed was her dad's best friend and business partner, Clayton Saunders. But there was only one set of tracks at both accidents, and it was the cars that went off the road, so the police had ruled it an accident. And Cassie's still a skeptic about all the supernatural stuff, but she called Dean because she can't explain her father's death, and she wants to know if maybe they can, because, you know, she would like to know.
Yeah. I mean, her dad died when he was possibly murdered.
Yeah.
Is this where she says, she asked them to close the road, isn't it? Is it that scene? Or is that a later scene?
We're coming up on that.
Okay. Yeah. There we go. Have a comment about that, but we'll make it later.
Her mom comes home. She's white. Cassie is black. And obviously Cassie's dad we saw was black as well. So her mom's white, so they were a mixed race couple. Cassie introduces Dean as a friend from college and Sam as Dean's brother. And then the mom doesn't want to talk to them about Cassie's dad or about anything. She's not in the mood.
Her husband did just die, so that's fine.
Her husband did just die. She's not feeling sociable.
I do have a random offhand comment to make about this scene before we move on.
We love that.
It's something really funny is that, you know, Sam and Dean are sitting down on the couch and Cassie gives them their tea. And, like, Dean just, like, looks at his cup like, what the heck is this? Looks over at Sam's cup and is like, what is this? I was expecting beer. Like, I thought it was just cute. I just had to add that in.
I've never noticed that, but that's fantastic. Just like, what do I do with this weird hot drink that's not coffee and it's not beer?
You drink it, and you try not to burn yourself.
I hear tea, and I'll be honest, my brain does go to the Soulless Sam episode with the really tiny cups.
Oh gosh.
But now we have to go back and look and see if these teacups are regular or not.
I think they are regular, but like his face was just so funny.
KJ will let us know. Ed and KJ here, and I did check, and the teacups were not tiny. They were actually really nice teacups. They actually looked like they were pretty hefty, kind of like thick, so like they wouldn't break easy. I was a fan. But I think it's funny. I love when Dean doesn't know how to do like normal people things, and he looks to Sam, and sometimes Sam knows, and sometimes he doesn't.
Oh, I just realized that's such a cute thing. Like the dependence on. He's like, my brother knows better how to play normal. I really noticed it in Hookman when they went to the church to meet Lori for the first time. Sam like knew to like close his eyes and like bow his head, and Dean was like looking around like, what's happening? Dean has never lived in normal society. No. For any period of time other than when he was a literal toddler. You would think he would be better because he had like 4 years of normalcy and Sam was just like raised in it, but no, Sam went and found some normalcy as an adult. He got better. He's had practice. And this is when we get to another smash up car just in time to see the truck vanish again. And this victim was Jimmy from the newspaper. So Jimmy from the newspaper is victim number 3. Mayor Todd is regretful and Cassie is upset that, quote, our best are dropping like flies, which I thought was fantastic.
It's a good line.
A real gut punch. And he asks what she wants him to do, and she asks him to close the road, but he refuses because it's a main road. Which I actually like mostly, I don't know, because they have no idea what it is, and they don't even have like any sort of leads or like it's just really interesting. I think that like there'd be like a reason listed as to why they want to close the road of like, you know, we think it's dangerous, like physically dangerous. I feel like 3 fatal accidents in a 3-week period feels like a good enough reason to close a road. Yeah, but I get it from like I wonder from just like it's the only road in and out of town. Like, what are they going to do if they do that? Apparently, this is a real town. Apparently, it's got more than one main road. So okay. Convenient for plot reasons. I'm not sure why they make up a fake road or a fake town. They make up that all the time. I'm not sure why they didn't do a fake town, because they've done this fake town with only one road in and out storyline a couple times later in the show. I can remember this would have been a good episode for a fake town, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, they didn't, and that's okay. Sam and Dean just wander onto the crime scene and ask the mayor if the car was pushed, and I had a few thoughts about this. For one, they walked onto a crime scene yet again. I am never going to get over the disrespect of crime scenes. Some of these writers wrote on crime shows. Do they not understand how crime scenes operate? Like, people can't just walk into crime scenes.
To be fair, there are lots of crime shows that don't understand how crime scenes work either.
That is true.
This is true.
Also, I wonder about, like, if there's ever, you know, I'm sure there are times when they go into crime scenes and then it turns out to not be something supernatural. Like, when it turns out to be something supernatural, usually it ends up, like, working out. But if it wasn't, if they had just gotten it wrong, then they've just, like, really screwed the pooch.
Oh my god, I can only imagine. I want to see an episode where, like, they do the FBI routine and they completely take over the case, and then, yeah, it's not anything. Like, what happens to it then?
That would be a funny episode
How do they
to
hand
watch.
that back?
It's like, oh, this is so awkward. We gotta get out of here really fast.
The person that they ask about this collision is the mayor, who is not an expert in collisions or anything like that, because he's the mayor.
He's a politician.
Also, as we've talked about a few times, Sam and Dean are wanted fugitives. Don't walk up to the mayor of a town on a crime scene that you're not authorized to be at and start asking the mayor questions. I'm gonna come back to eat my words on everything I just said about the mayor, but it's fine. At this point in time, there's no reason that the mayor should have any helpful information for them. Sam and Dean have been upgraded to family friends. Cassie introduces them to the mayor as family friends. She introduced them to her mom as a friend from college and his brother.
Sort of makes sense, though, because then if they're around for, like, more of the, like, questioning, it doesn't seem as weird if it's just, like, if it's, like, family friends that would have maybe even known her father.
Yeah.
There we go. Instead of just like, hey, this is a rando from college.
Immediately after she introduces them, she goes back to yelling at the mayor for not investigating fully because all three of the victims so far are black men. And he is shocked that he would be called out for racism and says her mother knows better than anyone. He's not. There's a lot to unpack there.
Also, her mother's, like, also, like, a white woman. Like, him appealing to her mother to be like, she knows I'm not racist is not great.
Yeah, she's also white. Like, yeah, she has a black kid and a black husband who just died, but, like, she's also still white.
But also, one thing that's really come to the forefront, like, nowadays, is that you can be, like, really nice to people and genuinely like them and still have some, like, racist ideas that you've just been raised with.
Yeah, 100%. 100% that. Yeah, you can know and interact with black people or people of other minority groups and still be biased, like, you know?
Yeah, like, it's kind of normal. It's not really good, but, like, it's something that you need to be aware of so you can train yourself out of those ideas.
Yeah, I don't want to equate racism with homophobia, but, like, I'm bi, and I'm sure that a lot of people that I have in my life still have, you know, homophobic and, like, biphobic biases that they you know, have in their framework for how they interpret the world, but that doesn't mean that they don't like me in particular.
Yeah, there's a saying that my grandma used to tell me that your first thought when you, like, think of somebody or, like, something like a topic like racism or homophobia, that first thought that pops into your head, no matter what it is, that thought comes from how you were raised. And then the second thought that you have after that is your own personality and how you view things. So, like, say for someone who sees a black person walking and they're like, oh, it's a black person, that first thought is because they were raised either by people or around people who are racist, and then their next thought, if it's not about their color, then that means that they're not a racist person, like, deep down in their soul, you know?
Nice. Well, I'm gonna keep that in mind.
And, like, recognizing, too, like, in relation to this episode, like, how much more helpful would it have been if he had gone, like, if the mayor had said, like, if he had just acknowledged the fact that Cassie's making this connection and going, hey, there might be a race element.
Yeah.
Rather than, like, feeling the need to, like, make it about himself and defend himself, because I feel like when we're unintentionally, yeah, like, and I feel like, I mean, even, like, I know I've done that where I've been defensive when I've been called out for having an incorrect opinion or just speaking without thinking, and it just adds extra hurt when you're like, oh, I've got to defend myself. You're, like, making yourself the most important, when it really, like, Cassie and these victims are what's important here.
100%. Even if he just said literally anything else, even if he just added something else to this sentence, it would also just, like, I feels like, you know, like, go ask your mother feels like a kind of condescending thing to say to an adult as well.
You're right. It really does.
From, like, an older man to, like, a woman in her like mid to late 20s.
Oh man, I didn't see that until you mentioned it, but oh my gosh. Just go ask your mummy to explain this to you, sweetie.
Yeah, I'm not going to explain anything to you. Sam and Dean go and they're getting suited up. I'm not sure why they felt the need to get suited up in this episode, but they felt the need to go get suited up. But while they're doing that, Sam loves Cassie. He wants Dean to know he approves of her like 100%.
So do I.
He makes a really big point of commenting on Cassie's fearlessness, and he says that he bets that Dean got his ass kicked by her a few times, which Dean doesn't deny. Sam then goes on to say that they never look at one another. He can see Dean looking at Cassie and then Cassie looking at Dean, and he's just bringing that up to be the annoying little brother.
He's demonstrating his like